Hello, I'm back in all my pizza face glory. 29 years old, and I don't know, a week ago, I just like broke out like crazy. Anyway, absolutely not what this topic's about. This topic, so I just finished a quarter over at the local college, and I left the local university. Excuse me, there's several universities, local state university, because there was too much BS. There was everything from administration to the way that the money was being used at the school, to the overly politically charged environment that was seemingly more important than the fact that we're supposed to be there for education, to the the idea behind most of the instructors that they could do whatever they wanted. There was a whole lot of teaching curriculum teaching things that were not in the curriculum. A whole lot of opinions flying around rather than fact. I don't mind opinions as long as they're stated as opinions, and I still learn enough. I'm okay with that. I'm even okay if I don't agree with those opinions. Well, I'm not okay if I don't agree with just about everything that's coming out of people's mouths. So I left. Universities right now, not all of them, but most of them that I've been to are really messed up places. They're not really about education. I don't know if they ever were, because when I started attending college, when I started attending college, it was more about education, but I was going to a community college at the time. And I didn't start attending a university until 3 years ago or something. So anyway, I left because it wasn't education. Let's put it that way. Sorry for the mess, by the way, if anybody's actually going to watch this. I don't really have too many viewers right now. That's okay. But yeah, I've got what looks like a mess. It's actually organized small messes. Anyway, this video is about the quarter I just went through at the local community college. It was so much better than the university. They're really, really focused on student for the most part. They're really, really focused on ensuring that the student is being taught what they're supposed to be taught in order to go out into the workforce and use their degree. Don't get me wrong, there's theory, we do talk about politically charged things. There is not so much, though. There is some of that stuff that's not like just pure sit down and learn. There's some of that going on. It's certainly college. It's not like elementary through high school where it was kind of like go to class and learn. Your social life is outside of class. But there is, it's a little closer to that, and I like that because the thing is that I'm not there spending my hard-earned money. Don't get me wrong, I use the GI Bill, but I did earn that. But anyway, I'm not there spending taxpayer money, which makes me just as upset to not learn anything, which is what was happening at the university. It was absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, someday, which is the title of this video, I think I do want to teach. I remember being in high school, and my academic advisor, at the time we called them counselors, said, Tyler, you're ridiculously intelligent, but you don't try in school, and we want to find out why. And I said, that's okay. I already have an answer. It's boring, and I already know a lot of what the teachers are saying. And I'm not in the era where computers were really fast enough that you could just pop onto YouTube and learn about freaking 4D mathematics or string theory or And I mean, you can learn detailed information that I could go to college for years to learn, in a matter of, if I teach myself, in a matter of probably weeks, and things that you could go to college for years to learn could be taught in weeks online. For some people, some of this topics can be taught in days. Um, and that didn't exist when I was a kid. But I said, I'm bored. You're right. I feel more intelligent than I felt like I knew enough to the point that I'm not like, oh, I'm so vain, I'm so smart. I'm just trying to say I definitely felt like school was wasting my time teaching me things that I wasn't going to use. I think a lot of people feel that way in high school and before high school. And then in college, it's the same thing, but on a very different scale. Now you need to learn things so that you can go out and get a career. The problem is that we've made it all about getting that piece of paper, rather than actually learning things and applying them in our life. And really unfortunate. And I see it in other places. I see it in churches, in the Christian community. I see it. That's a really sad one for me personally. I see it. In the families, in the way that families are raised, and the way that children are raised. Sorry, there's a lot of things that parents want to pass on to the school. It's the school's fault. It's society's fault. It's video games' fault. It's TV's fault. Let's go back in time. It's the video game's fault, and then the previous era. It's TV's fault, and then the previous era. It's those dang rock bands, and then the previous era. I don't know. It's the government's fault, and the government's kind of long-standing. Whatever. Kind of getting off track. So this last quarter was great. I learned a lot, or at least I really reinforced a lot of things that I already knew. Some of my classes, all my classes were pretty basic. I own a business. I took the beginning business course, which at UNO I didn't pass because the teacher didn't give a crap. He literally copied, not photocopied, but he copied the information from the book and put it on a slide and told it to us in class. If you're going to give me a book to read, I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to come to class and you're going to freaking try and teach me the same thing. Are you crazy? Like, don't get me wrong. Okay, we should be learning maybe the same thing as reinforcement, but you don't say exactly the same thing that's in the book and just read off the screen the whole time. And he was very unexciting. And here's the thing, I really like the guy. I actually hung out with him outside of class while I was in his class because he did know a lot about business and he had a lot of connections. So that was nice. But now that I'm out of the university and I'm going to this college, it was much more straightforward. It was, here's the book, read the book, do some critical thinking questions at the end, which were pretty weak questions, and the book was a little outdated, and the questions were always based off of a real life company, and the thing that they were talking about was something that maybe the company doesn't do anymore. So whatever. I actually went online every time I had to do one of those, which was for every class. So for the 11 weeks, we did like 20-ish chapters, just about every class. So yeah, anyway, I went online, and just about every time what the book was talking about was no longer relevant. I mean, things change, and books are static. They don't move around. They don't. Data doesn't change in a book. So anyway, that was kind of an issue. But anyway, even the business course I took, which is why I got online today to talk to you guys, because it was the least good class that I was in, was 10 times better than over the university. So it's a interesting thing. I'm interested to see how my education at this community college continues to go. So I took a horticultural class, an information technology class. You just have to take it to get the degree at the college. So I figured I should probably be trying to earn a degree while I'm there. And to use the GI Bill, you have to be working toward a degree, which is good. Anyway, my horticultural class was perfect. It was exactly as I would probably teach a class. Teacher was goofy, but engaging, fun. I'm going to be taking plenty of classes from her from now on if I can. Besides the fact that I'm in the horticultural degree, so that makes sense. And there was plenty of information that was clearly taught to us. The PowerPoints were not, which, school these days is basically book, internet, PowerPoint, lecture, and then you're the final factor. That fits most of college these days. You're like, sweetie, yes it is. Just say hi. Oh, hello. Don't be grumpy. Put your ears up. So that was great. I had the info tech class. My teacher was amazing. She was really kind. She was very clear when she instructed. I was there for the first class. I was there for the midterm exam, and I was there for the final. And that is it. Because she told me that, because I could have tested out of the class. And I said, I think I'll take the easy A and get paid in the meantime. When I run out of Chapter 31 benefits, my post 9/11 GI Bill, then I can use Chapter 33 benefits anyway to work toward whatever career goal I have at the time in the future. So I don't care if I use up my GI Bill because I understand how to continue to get college paid for myself. Oops, excuse me, that was my middle finger. The baby. So, sorry, Infotech. Yeah, she said, you don't have to come to class if you complete all the assignments. So I did. And I got an A in the class. I think I got 94 or 95%. And I had the opportunity to go back and fix any mistakes that I had. That's awesome, because school shouldn't be about memorize this thing and then tell us how much you memorized and then we'll tell you what your grade is. That's ridiculous. And we've been doing that for years. It's half of why our school system is messed up, actual education wise, inside the education system. So obviously political, financial issues at hand here. So you are pressing on the glands in my thighs, and it really hurts. When you have a lot of glands in the upper part of your thighs, cats like to come into your lap, and then they got all that pressure on the little pads of their feet. Anyway, yeah. So school should be for college, because by then you're an adult and attendance is up to you. But it should be flexible. It should be flexible with your lifestyle. It should give you the full opportunity to learn the information, because the point is that you're paying them a ton of money and that they're supposed to be teaching you a ton of information so that you can use that in your life. That's all there is. Everything else is not that important. Them teaching you critical thinking skills, you should already have that. And if you don't, shame on your environment, not you. Shame on your schools, shame on your family. Sorry. Anyway, I've got a lot to say about college. It's all kind of disjointed. This is very extemporaneous. Not even extemporaneous. That would mean that I have something to read off of. Anyway, really just a giant row of tangents. So this class was very good, though very different. So basically, she let me treat it like an online course. And for something that is very simple, it's just, here's how you use stuff in Word. Here's how you use Excel. Here's how you use PowerPoint. Here's what a browser is. Let's go over what the hardware in a computer is. Because I do this because it wasn't all hardware. Some of it was software inside hardware lessons and vice versa. That's okay, whatever. And I'm not even talking about like software that acts as hardware. That's a whole other thing. That's tech up here anyway. So this class was very good. It was very basic, so for me it was very boring. But I was still engaged enough to do it. Anyway, so moving on to the final class. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up comparisons, classes that were good and the reasons they were good. And they were both, the major thing is they were very straightforward. It was, here's the information. Here's several ways to learn the information. Here's why the information is relevant, just in general. And then here's why the information is relevant in your life. You're going to use this infotech class for the rest of your college experience, because everything that we teach in this class is stuff that you use in your other classes, Excel, Word, the internet, just understanding the basic way that computers work, which is really good because there's a surprising amount of people out there who don't understand the very basic things about the most important or useful programs that we have on computers, and that's okay. And it covered both major operating systems. So, it had all the Windows stuff, it had the Mac OS stuff. So it was good for every type of user. My horticultural class, which it's not here, it's in my car, but I have a binder organized full of information that I can use in my future horticultural classes, and I could actually refer back to ensure that I understand the information that I need to know if I am in, and because it was the beginning general horticultural class, it had just about every, and I was a landscaper for like 8 years, so I know this class was taught well, because honestly, there's a lot of things I already knew in the class, and excuse me, and praise God for that one, for setting me up that way. But anyway, there's a binder now that I can go back to if I went back into landscaping. I could go to that binder and say, what's that thing about the way that seedlings germinate? No, not germinate. That's easy. Water germination. Basically. Anyway, what was that thing about how we have monocots and dicots, and why is that important to what I'm doing, to understanding how the plant's going to grow? What about root structures? Based upon the size of this isn't necessarily something that was taught in class, but something you can infer based upon the information that was taught. What about a taproot? Well, how big is the plant above ground? Because that'll tell you about how big the taproot is below ground. And here's the thing, maybe you didn't know it was a taproot, but because you took this class, you have an idea of what plants are going to have a taproot. It's like, oh, it's a biennial, and it produces food for us, so it probably has a taproot. That's a basic generality. It's not true for all taproot plants or all food for us plants or whatever, but if those three things come together, or if those two things come together, then one of the other ones is highly likely. So you say, oh, well, this probably has a taproot, so you might want to check that, and then you go about planting it properly, and you say, well, we got to ID plants, so we know how to write the binomial nomenclature. Now we know how to start to identify scientific names. We know about fertilizers and pest control and organic fertilizers, because when I say fertilizers, you probably think synthetic. we got an update for you. Restart your computer in the middle of your vlog. Anyway, it's very straightforward, and we learned things that are applicable, and we even got to walk away with all the information graded if you did all the work. Right there. And not only is all the information right there that you wrote down, the grades are there, and the things that are wrong are marked, so that way when you go back and refer to that binder, you're referring to the right information. Because let's say you went back and something's wrong and it's not marked, then you're going to have a problem because you're going to refer to the wrong information. And that didn't happen. So it's a very well thought out course, and I know that they're constantly evaluating the course and trying to update it so that it's relevant in the work field, relevant to the students, engaging, and is giving you all the information you want. So on to the final class. I had some problems. One, there was a universally charged element in the classroom where, despite living in an area that hosts a fairly divided group of people politically, which is not necessarily a good thing that we're divided. But either way, the class was taught from a perspective, a business mindset perspective of a person who has been all of her life on one side of the aisle, let's say. I really don't want to go about saying, oh, those darn liberals or all those darn Republicans. I'm not getting at that, and it's not about any particular political group. But the class was run from a particular mindset that was politically inspired. And when you do that, if it's not a course on politics or, if it's not a course on politics or something that's like 99% affected by that, then it shouldn't be taught from that perspective. The class was always started with, so what's in the news? What does that have to do with what you're teaching? Nothing. It didn't. She didn't ask us to take time before class to read a newspaper or articles online from Forbes or Business Week or the business section of the New York Times, or let me see here. By the way, I'm not trying to, I realize those are all a little left-leaning. I'd say Forbes is pretty middle of the road, but maybe a little left-leaning through some of their opinion articles. But anyway, those are a little left-leaning, and I'm not trying to mention just left-leaning articles, journals, type of work. Anyway, it was just conversation. Don't get me wrong, man, conversation's great. But if it's going to take a good 15, 20 minutes out of the beginning of my class period when I could be learning information, is it that the class is too long and you could be letting us out early and you're taking up our time? Or is it that you don't give a crap, or what? And I did not appreciate that. And it got everybody heated because what's in the news? Politics. And why is it in the news? Because they care about ratings, not about information, not about innovation, not about what's going on that's actually relevant to your life. They're about ratings. They just want to put stuff in there that's going to get you heated. It's going to get you, most of the time, angry, so that you feel an emotional connection to what you're reading. When you feel an emotional connection to something, you come back to it. Even if you're scared, even if you're angry, that is how the news works. And I'm not saying that it's false. I'm saying that it's usually exaggerated or overly opinionated. It's not just news, like, here's what's going on. Anyway, so chronologically in the class, it's the first thing that ticks me off. And then there's the political background of the instructor that affected the way that she taught. So those are some overarching issues. Then there was what was taught was selected from within the book. There wasn't a background from the teacher of business. She worked closely with businesses for years, but never owned a business herself. Which, that's another thing. If you're going to be an instructor or a professor, then your background should probably be in what you're teaching. And it really irks me when someone goes out and tries to teach something that they don't know anything about. They just know how to teach. They know how to follow a rubric and rules and develop a curriculum. Because the problem is that curriculum becomes really screwed up because they're just basing it off of their opinions or what they've been taught, but they've been taught outside of the career field or outside of the field of study. And so that really upsets me. Now, I will say, this teacher worked in local government, and that portion of the local government had to do with the local businesses. But she never owned a business and doesn't really understand. She understands a lot of things. She's a very smart person. She has a master's degree in human resources. That's a business-related topic. But because of that, she also has a bias about human relations. When she opened up the chapter, or excuse me, when she was teaching on the chapter for human relations, first thing she said was, after going over the news, was, okay, so what is human relations? She asked the class. And I had forgotten that she had an HR degree. She told us at the first day of class. And what I said was, oh, something that can be completely outsourced? It was just a joke. She was not happy about that because obviously that's her background. She was interested enough in that to go get a degree in it. Don't get me wrong, you don't have to be interested in something to get a degree in it, but it really helps because that's a lot of work and time and effort put into something. If you don't like it, you probably don't want to do it if you don't like it. Anyway, so she probably liked it enough to study it. Hi, sweetheart. You want to come back up? Good girl. She probably liked it enough to study it, and then I kind of trashed it. But I didn't mean to. That's just the truth. You really can outsource everything in HR these days. And her response to it was, no, not everything, like maybe the hiring and the firing or the hiring, but that's it. And that's not true. That's not at all true. You can outsource. You can outsource anything in a business. Delegation is the number one tool that a business owner, CEO, manager has, to tell someone else to do the work for you so that you can continue to own, manage, and run the company. So yeah, poo on that. The teacher also would get sidetracked sometimes and start talking about things that she didn't know things about, like the military. And I was in the Air Force. And I have learned to shut up and listen. That when you're in class, it's not necessary to argue about everything just because the teacher's wrong. Because sometimes your instructors are very wrong, but you really want the grade so that you can move on. There were several times when that happened, not just about the military. So getting sidetracked talking about things is fine if they're fairly relevant. There was a ton of that in my horticultural class from students and the teacher, including myself. And that's okay if it's relevant and it doesn't take up so much time that the students aren't able to learn what they need to learn. So that didn't happen in my horticultural class, but those effects did happen in this other course, business course. The book is antiquated. I don't have it anymore. I returned it. The book is antiquated. It's not only outdated about some of its stories in there, but it's outdated on some of its information. And it's once again very traditional business idea concept. It's a very traditional concept about how to run a business. HR is a group of people that deal with exactly what it says, the relations of the humans inside the company. And PR, which is something else that you can, I don't want to say you want to outsource it necessarily. It's not something that you need a giant team of people. And it used to be that, I don't need to go way into how corporate structure runs. The point is that the way the book, because I could go on and on about all the different chapters, the way the book looks at business is very traditional. And businesses are changing from that traditional aspect in many, many ways. The biggest technology piece that it touched on was social media. It's a great way to advertise. It's basically stated in the book several times, and that's it. And it was just, the structure, the layout was very antiquated. I know because I've read several scholarly, books that are made for school. Scholarly works on business, and some of them are really cool. Some of them are really interesting and up to date with modern business. But when you study business, unless you're studying it for historical purposes, and you study business and the way that it's taught is the same as how business was until about the 80s, you're not going to learn what you need to learn to be effective in today's society or today's in industry, whatever you're studying, whether it's business or something else. So that was a little disappointing. The book was, and then the way that the instructor just decided to take information from the book because she didn't necessarily understand a lot of other things. Some of the things that the instructor focused on took way too much time, and thus we did not get to study the other information that was within the curriculum. Not that all the information in the curriculum was up to date or really all that good or all that true sometimes. So that was a little upsetting. It wasn't horrible, don't get me wrong. There were things taught that are relevant. But I think the emphasis was was a little bit too traditional. Anyway, that being said, it is a 101 course. But that moves me on to my final, the final aspect of this course that really upset me. The instructor's teaching a 101 business course. It is, what did we actually call the course? Is BSAD 1000, or like BSAD, right? Okay, yeah, they call it Introduction to Business. Okay, so in an Introduction to Business course, you can assume that the students are taking that course because it's either something to fulfill credit hours, which is a small portion of the class that's not necessarily, this isn't going to be relevant to. Then the majority of the class is taking the class because it's the first class that they're taking before they go off and they take other respective business courses, finance, HR, PR, business math, business calc, whatever. So it's the first class. That means that the students probably don't know a lot about business. Okay? You don't ask a group of people that don't know anything about the topic to build you she asked us to do a business plan and didn't teach us how to build a business plan. It was not in any of the curriculum. Halfway through the quarter, I said, right before class started, I said, hey, so are you ever going to go over what you want in the business plan? And she said, what do you mean? I went over it the first day. I said, no, not the title of the different things that you want in the business plan, how to do those things. And she said, well, it's self-explanatory. We literally, our jaws dropped open and we went and looked at each other. And she went, well, let me show you something. And she got on the computer and went to Google to find something like an outline of a business plan. But just didn't teach us anything. Didn't know how to teach it clearly. Hey, buddy. And I'll tell you, they were horrific. And I know because I've written several business plans. The business plans that were written were horrific, absolutely horrible. Our business plan was probably about 5,000 words. It was 90% copied from a business plan that I have previously written and then modified for the concept, which is a very similar concept to my actual business, for my group. On top of that, she said, you have all quarter, great. Work in teams of 5. You know how freaking hard it is to get 5 students together enough to write a 5,000 to 10,000 page paper in a 101 course? Absolutely freaking ridiculous. Scaring my cat away. Okay, sweetie. Just ridiculous. So shame on the instructor for expecting that from her students. Throughout the whole quarter, it was, don't worry, it's not a big deal. You don't have to do that much for it. You don't have to go in depth. You can not make up, but you can estimate a lot of things. You can't estimate freaking flow charts, and you can't estimate demographics. I mean, these things you can't just like make up, because if you go, because we had to give a first of all, we had to build the business plan. Then we had to go give a presentation. I'm upset. Here's the thing. I can do this. I could have done this on my own, and I did do most of this, which I don't blame my team members. Once again, it's a one-on-one course. These are young people who want to be entrepreneurs, are not already likely entrepreneurs. They don't know how to do this stuff. It's ignorance, and I've claimed ignorance many times in my life. It's just the truth. Sometimes we don't know things. That's okay. I'm not blaming them. But anyway, I'm not upset because we had to do it. I'm upset in the way that it was not taught. I was going to say the way that it was taught, but it wasn't. And the way that it was administered was just ridiculous. The timing was off. The reasoning was off. Everything was off. It was basically like, you've read this book on business. Now you can write a business plan? Come on. She should not have been teaching this course. She's a really good, I think she is a really good instructor. What she did teach, she taught fairly well when she was lecturing. So she has the capability to teach, probably better than I do. I go on tangents and everything. I mean, I'm up to 40 minutes with this video just about. Anyway, it was ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you're an instructor or a professor out there or a teacher at a lower level, just don't do that. Please don't do that. Teach your students how to do something and then have them do it. that way you can see if they're listening, if they're learning, if they're paying attention, and then correct what's wrong in a manner that helps reinforce the information. Don't just be like, you're wrong, here's a bad grade. That's what's messed up with the educational system right there. Actually teach the information that's relevant, have them practice it in different ways, not just do a test, and then correct them and guide them onto the right track so that you can move forward to the next topic. This isn't rocket science. It's really not. It's just doing that and filling enough information in to not overburden or underburden the student over the period of time in which you're teaching. I mean, that's 90% of teaching right there. It really is. Now, I'm not trying to be not underwhelming. I'm not trying to oversimplify teaching. God bless you if you do it, because you're underpaid and you're likely underpaid and you're underappreciated, undervalued by society. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. You go through all these years of learning yourself typically to get into the position where you're at, and then there's no respect from the students, no respect from their parents, maybe at the younger age. It's a difficult thing to do. So God bless you and good on you if you do teach, but don't do that to your students. Don't tell them, here's a big project, I expect you to know how to do it. You know it. I haven't taught it. If you're going to expect someone to know how to do something, at least know why you expect them, know why it is that you expect them to be able to do it. So let's say that we were near the end of earning a bachelor's degree and in business entrepreneurship. Okay. And you've taken just about all the requisite courses. And a capstone would be writing a business plan that you could actually go out and use. That's when you write a business plan. And at that point, the students should know how to do all the different things in the business plan. But it should still be taught throughout the quarter or semester how to do that. Even at that level, you teach the students and guide them along the way. And if you're not teaching and you're not guiding, then what are you there for? To be heard? To be listened to? Go be an orator. Go as a person who gives speeches, by the way. If you know, a lot of people don't seem to know that word. When I use that word, people are like, what word is that? Is that a real word? Like, yeah, it is. Yeah, improve your lexicon. Another word people don't know. That's your internal vocabulary. It's the vocabulary that you have memorized. Anyway. Tangent again. If you're gonna teach, at least teach, at least guide, at least instruct. That's my rant. That's my vlog for today. I woke up from a nap and I was in a great mood. And I'm like, I'm gonna go do a video. And I thought about it and I was like, well, what's really relevant right now in my life? I just finished this quarter of school, and this class, don't get me wrong, the business class wasn't that bad, but there were obviously some things. I'm only pointing out the bad things for the most part. That it was a much better course than the one that I took at the local university. Kind of similar, kind of dry, kind of antiquated, but still better. And I do think the instructor cared about teaching us things. It's just if she had a better background in what she was teaching, then it would have turned out right. And if she didn't let her maybe unconscious biases get in the way, she could have influenced the students in a much more positive manner. That's what I have to say about that. Thanks for joining me. There's no one joining me. Thanks if you watch this video. If you like these live vlogs, whether I'm ranting or giving information or whatever, let me know. I have several ways that I tailor my videos. One is I just sit here and I talk. The other one is highly edited, and then there's something in between where I'm giving instruction, and you can see my mouse moving around on the screen, and I'm in a little box, but you see my screen, and I explain how to do something on tech. For the most part, those are my my what do you call it? Whatever, the way that I make my videos. If you like these live streams, then go ahead and go into the comments and let me know. If not, then let me know. And maybe let me know why, but don't be rude. I will just delete your comment if you're rude, if you're vulgar. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you like this particular video. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down, but do me a favor and go down in the comments and tell me why you didn't like the video. And have a wonderful day. God bless.